Assaulted people had gotten close to it at one of the latest gatherings. And so, can you tell your experience with that?
I felt like at our event in Lacey, I mean, yes, there were protesters. I don't know if there were too many individuals who felt so intimidated by the protesters that they didn't come in. I did speak to one man who said his wife stayed in the car with their child because she wasn't comfortable bringing their child past the line of protesters. But then, of course, there was an event in, where was the event? Joint Base Lewis McCord, maybe? Or Lacey, that, I'm trying to think where the event was, that there was actually, I think, more of an effort toward intimidation. There were people standing within feet of a signature gathering table. There were people holding signs calling them Nazis and fascists and F these guys. To me, that crossed the line from state law. Like, to me, I think that what happened there was in violation of state law when it came to not harassing or intimidating signature gatherers. After that, I wrote a letter to the Secretary of State, just basically saying, hey, it's in the best interest of our democratic process to make sure no one feels harassed or intimidated when they try to participate in this way. I did get a pretty prompt letter back. He said he agreed and offered to have us come down to Olympia and maybe talk about policy issues with them and how can we strengthen laws to make sure that, there's enough distance between somebody collecting signatures and people who want to protest it. So you have to protect First Amendment rights, but you also have to protect people's democratic rights.
We are ready to begin the official program here, and of course the best way to kick off any program is with our national anthems.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
A shining city on the hill. A tall, proud city made out of rocks stronger than oceans, windswept, God-blessed, and full of people of all kinds that lived in harmony and peace. A city that had free ports and hung with commerce and creativity. And a city that if it had walls, it would have doors. And those doors would welcome anyone with the will and heart to get here. That was Ronald Reagan's farewell speech. I was one of those immigrants that came through those doors. And I'm here before you because forever in my life I will defend the freedom and the values that the American dream represents. My name is Raul Garcia, and I am asking you today for a job. To have the honor to be your next United States Senator. As I have traveled through our state, consistently, everyone has said three things. We love our state and we love this country. We are very worried about our state and this country. And we need change.
I loved hearing what Raul had to say because I came from a place of telling the news every night for 28 years in the city that I loved. And when news went one way and I just couldn't be part of that anymore, I said, I've got to retire, and what can I do to have the biggest impact on my city? So I ran for office. My husband and I owned a small business in our downtown core, and I saw firsthand the issues of public safety and homelessness. And I'll tell you what, I've got a big challenge on my hand though, right now. And I wanted to bring awareness to why my race in Eastern Washington is so important to the entire state of Washington. I am running, or I will say my challenger, biggest challenger, is Lisa Brown, former Commerce Director, spent 15 years in the state legislature, raising taxes while she was there to the tune of $2 billion, and sued the city to continue raising taxes.
You are a beautiful looking crowd. My name is Carmen Gores. My family and I moved here in 2000 after we finished military service. We're part of the unit that left Berlin. We shut it down, we gave it back to the Germans, and we gave it back to them intact. It can be done. We know what it means. We believe in duty and service. We moved here with our children to raise them with the opportunity and hope that Washington brings. And now, as I've been promoted to grandma, that hope is looking a little different. And like you, I'm concerned. How many of us have raised our children? Hands up, hands up. How many of us think that the government can do a better job than we can? I don't think there's anybody out there, right? We're standing for parental rights. And what we have found and what we know to be true is we love our children. We love them like no other. And Kim Schreier has never met a mama bear like me. And we're coming out, and we're coming out hard and fast.
I want to touch a little bit about why we are here today, why we've gathered. It is why I ran for Kansas City Council, and it's why I'm running for Congress. It's what our four founders fought for, and it is slowly being stripped away from us by the majority party in this state and unchecked progressive policies. And that's freedom. I'm here for freedom. I want the freedom to raise my children as I see fit. I do not want to co-parent my children with the government. I want the freedom to be able to buy basic necessities like groceries and a comfortable home without having to choose between the two of them. I want the freedom for my children and my loved ones to go out on the streets in their neighborhoods and their communities and feel safe.
Slowly realized that it wasn't the career that I dreamed of and the career that I got into to make a difference. And it always breaks hearts at events like this when I say I'm not a Republican. I consider myself an independent. But what I saw is a media ecosystem that was so blatantly biased toward one political party when our job is supposed to be to hold powerful people accountable. And here the powerful people are Democrats. Again, I don't want to break any hearts. So I just thought, why is the media not focusing more on holding Democrats accountable? So I quit my job in TV news in November of 2021 to launch the Undivided podcast. I know there's a lot of subscribers in the crowd. I appreciate the support that you've shown. Yes, thank you. I mean, we really truly cannot do the show and independent media and what we're trying to do to bring balance back to the state without each and every one of you. I would also, before I introduce Jonathan Choe, be remiss if I did not bring up our friend Dory Monson. Yeah. Dory was one of the last true watchdogs of government, and obviously we lost his former executive producer, Nicole Thompson, is over there. Nicole, if you want to wave. And Nicole came to work for me at the podcast after Dory passed away. So not only did we lose a mentor and a friend, but the state of Washington lost one of the few members of the media who was really trying to just hold people accountable regardless of political party. Someone who I think has helped to fill that void is Jonathan Choe. So Jonathan will tell his tale, also a former corporate news reporter for Como TV in town. His departure was a little different than mine, but he has quickly become one of the most influential and dogged members of the media I have known in 15 years in the Seattle media. And so Jonathan Choe is here to talk to us about what he's doing for Discovery Institute and about how you can all help. Jonathan Choe.
Brandi, thank you so much for that intro. I promise I'm not a politician. Don't worry. I won't be long either. Hey, first of all, what's up, reasonable people of Washington State? Before I begin, I just want to qualify everything by quickly saying that if anyone is offended by what I'm about to say, you can blame Bryan Hayward. He's the one who invited me. Let's give everyone a hand to Bryan for bringing together this incredible gathering of just like-minded people who really care about our state, who care about democracy, who care about freedom, who care about America. And this is the place to do it. So I am absolutely stunned. Is there anybody here from mainstream media? That's what I thought. They're not going to cover this. Journalist and senior fellow at Discovery Institute, and I am still banned from Governor Jay Inslee's press conferences, and King County Executive Dow Constantine hates answering my questions. Google that if you don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, thank you so much for having me here right now. I have so much to talk about, and at Discovery Institute, what I do is I focus on the homeless crisis, the drug addiction crisis, public safety. But today I wanted to talk about what's happening to Washington State media. And I'm primarily talking about mainstream media. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. When I heard that, I'm not a Steve Jobs fanboy, but I was like, why didn't I ever hear that? I immediately ran home, Googled, and here's what the rest of the quote said. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation that is to come. Ladies and gentlemen, understanding how the media works and leveraging media isn't only important for the candidates, for elected officials, but for you guys, citizen journalists. How many people have iPhones or cell phones that record? Okay, thank you. Everyone should be putting up their hands. The power is in your hands. And I want to share a very quick example recently of a situation that had tremendous momentum. How many people heard about SB 5599, this insane transgender bill pushed by State Senator Marco Lias? There was a grassroots referendum to collect signatures and overturn this so we can get onto the November ballot. But unfortunately, it fell by only a few thousand votes. We did the post-mortem, and of course a lot of things could have been done differently. I want to give a hand right now, first of all, to Dawn Land, the mom who mobilized this, and many of the volunteers out here, including the King County GOP, that helped mobilize this. But it didn't work out, but one of the post-mortem details that I picked up on was the fact that local mainstream media barely covered what was happening. When you don't cover what's happening, okay, and especially we know there are powers that be in Washington State that want to stifle information. What do you think happens when events like that or movements like that aren't covered? It's a danger to our democracy because people don't know what's going on. Afterwards, I talked to reporters. Did you even know there was a referendum? No, Choe, I had no idea. I talked to my neighbors. No, Choe, had no idea. So the lesson here is this in closing. I'm here to sound the alarm that media is extremely powerful, yet at the same time, this is the opportunity for conservatives, especially here in Washington State, to get involved, invest, and raise up the next generation of storytellers. Because, ladies and gentlemen, there is still time to win.
My wife Jill challenged me. She said she dared me that I couldn't use the word y'all and flabbergasted in the same sentence, and I just pulled it off. Yes, all right. Okay, so Bryan asked me to come here and talk about police pursuits. I am Adam Fortney. I am the current sheriff in Snohomish County, one county north of here. Absolutely. Amen. And that story he just told was King County. I just want to be real clear about that. That was not us who responded to that event. But anyway, it is difficult out there. And he asked me to talk about police pursuits. I said, well, Bryan, that's easy. How long do I have? You're going to give me all night to talk about that? I could go 5 minutes or 5 hours. I've probably been in as many police pursuits as there are people out here today. So I can talk about this and the impact that we're seeing right now. But I'm going to start with a story. Jonathan Choe just mentioned storytellers, right? I don't know that I'm the greatest storyteller, but everybody loves it. I'm going to give you a cop story. So back in the day, early 2000s, it'll be brief, I promised. Okay, we could chase for anything and everything. Not only that, at the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office, that was kind of our culture. If you ran, we chased you. Again, this was early 2000s. At the same time, if you remember, Rolling Stone magazine did an article about Granite Falls, Washington, and it was deemed the meth capital of the United States of America, believe it or not. Well, that created some work for us, right? If you can imagine, to the police. And so I got in a police pursuit very early on in my career one night. It was an old van. It should not have been able to hold up very well with what I had, which at that time was a Crown Victoria. I chased this guy all over South Snohomish County, all down Low Larimer Road. We went back east. We end up in kind of the the Maltby area of State Route 522. We finally got a pit. You guys know what that is? I pitted the van and it flipped over. Not a good night for the police. We don't want to see that happen, okay? But these guys were totally okay, and we ended up catching that guy. During the pursuit, I kid you not, you know those vans that the double doors open in the back like that? His partner that was in the van with him was taking those very small propane containers, the Coleman ones, throwing them at my windshield. No joke, you cannot make this stuff up. And so we pitted him, he rolled, you know what it was? It was a mobile meth lab, you guys, a mobile meth lab. Yeah, absolutely, but we were able to hold him accountable, and that guy actually ended up going to prison for about 8 years on that one because he had a lot of history. That's a good story, right? There is an actual point of why I'm here tonight and why I told that story, and that is, if that happened tonight in the state of Washington, we're not going to be able to chase that guy. I'm happy I was able to chase that guy and hold him accountable and get that methamphetamine off of our streets and out of the hands of kids or users. That's what we don't want. So if that happened right now, we would not be able to do that. What we are facing right now in the entire state of Washington, the state got involved in the police's business about, 3 years ago? And they corrected some of that stuff. One of the areas they have not corrected, and if anybody tells you otherwise, they're not telling you the truth, is the area of police pursuits, okay? I'm going to say something super profound here, okay? Yes, that's a little bit of sarcasm, okay? When you tell the crooks ahead of time, follow me here, that there's a whole list of crimes that the police cannot chase you for no matter what, it's against the law, what do you think is going to happen to those crimes? The crooks aren't dumb. I mean, they know what's going on. Example number one are stolen cars in the state of Washington. Now, in 2023, should the police chase every single stolen car that runs? Probably not, because pursuits are dangerous and we got to make sure the community is safe. Absolutely. But if it's 3 a.m. and there's no traffic out there, yes, as the sheriff of Snohomish County, I think the police should have the discretion to chase that car and hold that person accountable. What's happening right now, that is absolutely worth a round of applause. I'm almost done. So we've been living under these laws for 2 years, so now we can look back and say, hey, if it's working, maybe they were onto something, right? Maybe, okay, but we can look back now. Vehicle theft is up 88% in the state of Washington. The crime stats just came out last month from WASPIC, and they added 10,000 vehicle thefts in 2022 in the state of Washington, and we surpassed Florida per capita. That should never happen. Their population is way higher than ours. So my message to you is we need this initiative. And listen, every police department, sheriff's office should have the discretion and authority within their departments to do what is right for their respective communities. I think that's, as Brandi's booth says over there, is a common sense approach to police pursuits. You don't need to be a law enforcement executive to figure some of this stuff out. So like I said, when you tell the crooks ahead of time, we can't chase you for all these crimes, what we see those crimes go up.
A lot of time in Washington we talk about choice. Yeah. Especially you hear from the Democrats. They're pro-choice on abortion. They're pro-choice on allowing minor children to determine if they want to be a boy or a girl without parental consent. They're pro-choice on a whole plethora of things. But I tell you what, there's one thing that they do not believe in: choice. And that's how you spend your money. That's how you spend your paycheck. I tell you, just in the few years that I've been in the legislature, the Democrats have passed 19 new taxes. And you have voted down 16 of them through your advisory ballots. You've told them that we don't want what you're selling. They even passed taxes one year whenever we had a $15 billion budget surplus. Can you believe that? Wow. It's unbelievable. You have a $15 billion budget surplus, you spend all of that money and you add additional taxes? I tell you, the biggest example, though, of how that they are against allowing you to determine how to spend your money is this long-term care payroll tax. How many of y'all have seen your wallets are a little thinner this month than last month? Yeah, it's happened. This is probably one of the worst bills, financial bills, that I think that I've ever seen. One, because the benefit is really nothing. It's a real problem that we need to do something about. But this bill is not the solution. This payroll tax is not the solution. You voted it down by a margin of 63% in the advisory ballot. About 500,000 Washingtonians have opted out of the program. Now, you may not know this because if you're self-employed, you have to opt into the payroll tax. Guess how many self-employed individuals in our state have opted into the program? 153.
I'm going to introduce the shy, small-voiced wallflower, Jim Walsh. Please give him a warm welcome. Jim Walsh.
Well, how you all doing? All right. Are you taxed too heavily? Do you want tax reform in Washington? Want to pay more tax? All right, well, we got something for you. Initiative 2111 restates what's already stated in our Constitution, in our statutory law. That is, in the state of Washington, there can be no state income tax. Now, Bryan was right. You'd say, well, why do we need this? Because there is tension in Olympia, and there is tension in the law. Now, our state constitution in Article 7 describes tax policy in this state. And Article 7 says that all taxes in Washington have to be flat. The term it uses is uniform across all classes of asset. And that is the reason that many people think, well, you can't have a state income tax in Washington because the Constitution says you can't. Actually, that's not right. All that Article 7 says is that a tax of any sort has to be flat. So we could have a flat state income tax in Washington, but, well, I mean, is that what you want? No! Good. I showed up at the right place. But it is evident that in everything that the tax and spenders are doing, with the capital gains tax, that they got the cockamamie state Supreme Court to say isn't an income tax, it's an excise tax. That's nuts. We'll save that for another day. With everything they're doing with the payroll taxes, the tax and spenders in Olympia are getting ready to implement a state income tax. And Initiative 2111 says no. It says accurately that the tradition and the law of this state is there is no state income tax. That's the reason that Washington has always had a powerful private sector economy. That's the reason we had Weyerhaeuser. It's the reason we had Boeing. It's the reason we had Microsoft. It's the reason we have Amazon. If we put a state income tax into place, the next Amazon will be in Idaho or Texas. Do you want that? No! No. No is the right answer. So, will you support Initiative 2111 to say clearly and with no beating around the bush that there's no state income tax in Washington? Will you support that? Well, you've heard it all now. You've heard about 6 initiatives. I'm the last one. These are the reasons that we're together today. These are the reasons that we are using the initiative process to do what it should do, which is the important reforms in public policy that Olympia won't do. It's on you. The initiative is your tool. Use it. Use it well. God bless you all.
The guy stumbling down, he's been maimed. And I took him and got him from standing. And then I
So as you heard, quick interlude, our last set, a couple of songs from our great house band, and a special announcement from Brandi.
I told John I was given the really important job. Somebody lost their keys, people. Get it together. It's a Camry. You have some really colorful house keys, tie-dye. There's one of a lime green owl. Okay, if you want these back, you're going to have to come get them from me, because I've got them. Let's get a couple songs, boys and girls. Yes? All right, enjoy, and then your gubernatorial candidates are next.
Yeah, so what was your take on the results of SB 5599, of the recent petition?
Well, you know, I was covering this from the beginning. I thought it was a valiant effort by Dawn Land and all the volunteers. They were so close, just a few thousand signatures away from actually getting this on the November ballot, so I was extremely impressed. But what I saw happening behind the scenes was absolutely stunning, and what I'm talking about is the far-left activists along with Antifa trying to intimidate these signature gatherers at some of these events. You know, folks, volunteers with Moms for Liberty also dealing with that intimidation. I just could not believe that the leftists, the people who wanted State Representative Mark Elias's bill to go through, were essentially, you know, using any means necessary to stifle this referendum. So that's what was probably one of the most shocking developments to, you know, happen on, you know, covering this story. With that said, I think this is going to be a real lesson learned, especially for Republicans, conservatives, the GOP, especially parents, and that's really trying to better understand and seize the moment with the narrative, really getting their story out, because they can't rely on mainstream media anymore. Very few outlets covered it. I mean, it was pretty much me, Brandi Kruse, and a handful of other folks who really covered this from the beginning, middle, and end. So you can't rely on mainstream media anymore when you have these initiatives, so you really have to really own the story, and you do that by leveraging social media and citizen journalism. So we'll see what Dawn does next, but I spoke to her after this defeat. I think it was, again, a teachable moment, and, you know, we haven't heard the last from the moms and the parents, and I think there are going to be some other bills out there that are going to try to counter this.
Then there was one other question. So for petitioning gathering as well as initiative gathering, did those fall specifically in the same category of protected observation from interference, or are there differences with regard to, say, a difference between R101 as a referendum and a different one which is an initiative like I-2078?
Well, when it comes to just basic, bare bones, you know, signature gathering, I mean, and trying to set up a table at a, you know, park, trying to gather signatures from people, that, you have protections. Anyone who tries to interfere with that, you know, that's against the law. But I think the key is enforcement. Will local law enforcement, when they see that type of activity or behavior, will they enforce that? Will they protect, you know, the men and women, the volunteers who are trying to get these signatures? Because again, what I saw with the far left activists, they saw SB 5599, the referendum for that, as a genuine threat. And it was so close, and I think if word got out more, if the mainstream media even covered what was happening, I think that this would be on the November ballot.
We are literally at a state where we have taxation without representation. Does that sound familiar? That's right, 1775, 1776, but be encouraged and have hope, because they were going against insurmountable odds, weren't they? Yeah. And they didn't give up. No one told them, oh, you can't win, right? Oh no, they went out there and they engaged with personal courage and intestinal fortitude, and because of them, we owe our freedoms to those founders, those veterans, and those warriors who gave us America that we enjoy today. Women's rights, we are the party of civil rights, and we will be the party of parents' rights in 2024. We will save our children. We will protect our children. Now, it's not going to be easy, but just like those black business leaders and business owners today said, if we can come together if we can set aside our differences and put America first, put our children first, put our Constitution first, we will prevail and we will save our constitutional republic. I could stand here all day and talk about homelessness, lawlessness, the breakdown of our education system. I can spend all my time giving you plan by plan by plan. But I want to give you hope. I want you to know that we have a pathway to victory. And it starts with you. We have brave counties. Clark County, Yakima County, Benton County, Skagit County, Skamania County, Lewis County, Cowlitz County, Mason County. We are standing together. Give me a few more months, you're going to see more counties. We are going to take back Washington State, and we're going to do it by coming together. We're going to do it through unity. We're going to do it through hope. We're going to do it through a commonality of love for this country. Someone asked me the other day, how can you be a black man and be a Republican? I said, if you knew our history, I could ask you, how can you be a black man and not be a Republican? This is America. This is America. America has always been the nation of diversity. It is when we come together that our diversity is our strength. You look at the ghettos of New York, that was Italian. Those were Irish. We have all had hardship. We have seen the sins of man. But now is the time to unite together with one cause to save Washington State. I want you to stand with me. I want you to have hope. I want you to know that when the people come together, when we stand strong together, we will win. We will prevail. And in 2024, we are going to give Olympia the bird. God bless you. God bless you, Washington State.
I think the candidate with the coolest name ever. Sammy, what do you call your fans? Is it bird watchers? Bird watchers? The flock? Okay. See, I know the lingo. The next candidate probably doesn't need an introduction.
As you know, I've been in Congress. I did 14 years in Congress. I talk like it's prison time. I did 14 years in Congress. It almost was. I did 33 years with the Sheriff's Office, as you know. I started when I was, thank you. The good men and women who are wearing the badge today need your backup. They need you to support them. Let's hear it for law enforcement and the first responders. I spent some time in the United States Air Force Reserve. And then I went into the Sheriff's Office, and then I went to Congress, and then I went to work in Central America fighting human trafficking. I was in Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Panama, Costa Rica, and I just quit that job on June 30th to run for governor. Now I sort of feel like, if you think about this, it's sort of like Moses and the Israelites in the wilderness for 40 years. We've been in gubernatorial wilderness for 40 years, right? And when you heard Inslee announce that he wasn't running again, what's the first thing he did after he said, hey, I'm not running, but then he said, I'm excited to turn over the keys to the next Democrat governor of the state of Washington. We don't want that to happen, right? Right? Okay, thank you. All right. Well, what bothers me is if this government that we've been under for 40 years has disrespected us, has deprived us of our rights, has taxed us, has lied to us, and I sort of feel like I'm now the servant of the government. Instead of the government serving us, we are the servants, and that's not the way this should be. There should be a state where we are served by our government, where the government leaders have the heart of a servant, where they understand that the needs of the people of Washington State come first, not the needs of the politicians that are in Olympia, not the needs of the governor, but the needs of each and every one of us. And what this government has done has taken us down a path that I like to call the list of shame. Number one, the record of shame. Number one record, we have the highest gas prices in the country. Record high gas prices. We have record high property taxes, record high, we have our taxes that are the capital gains tax, for example, right? How many times have we in this state voted to eliminate and not have a state income tax? Several times, right? Well, they found a way around it. So now they're going to tax us on our capital gains taxes. And they went to a court, even though the IRS has defined capital gains as an income tax, they found a judge, a friendly liberal judge, and the judge decided it's not an income tax. So now we have a capital gains tax on top of that. And they lied to us about our gas tax, right? They're blaming it on other things other than the cap and trade tax that Inslee has put on us, 46 cents. And he also lied when he said, you know, it's only going to be a few cents. It's only going to be a few cents. Well, I'm running for governor because not only do we have record taxes, but we have record crime. Crime rate has hit the ceiling and gone through the ceiling. Record high murder rate, record high assault rate, record high auto thefts. I saw yesterday where, you know how many cars in Pierce County and King County are stolen every day? Anybody guess? 67 cars a day. 67 cars every day in King and Pierce County are stolen. I spent a lifetime fighting crime, 33 years of my life fighting crime. I have 2 Valor Awards in that process. I won't bore you with the stories, but as I said before, our cops need backup. So I'm running for governor to protect the vulnerable. I want to help small businesses, and I want to keep people safe. I want to end this government's war. It's a social warfare that they're conducting here. Our children are involved in that. Each and every one of you are involved in that. We've got to bring people together. And what this government has done is separated us. They have us pitting each other from one side of the state against the other side of the state, from one region against another region, from generation to generation. They have us pitted against each other. And it even comes down to they have pitted us family against family. Family against family. We need to come together. We can do that. I have hope in all of you. I have hope in this state. I have hope in my God, in my country, in my family. I've been married 53 years. I have 3 children, 6 grandchildren, and a 5th great-grandchild on the way. That's another reason I'm running for governor. Now let me tell you a quick story. When my son, who's now in his mid-40s, was 10 years old, I was mowing my lawn. I lived out in Covington. He was walking behind me, and he was tugging my shirt. He says, Dad, let me mow the lawn. I want to mow the lawn. Right, when he turned 16, Dad, I want the car keys. Well, when he's 10, right, they want to help. I want to mow the lawn. And I said, no, Dan, this is too dangerous. You can't. I don't want you to mow the lawn. The phone rings. My wife says, Dave, there's a phone call for you. I turned the lawnmower off. I went in. I answered the phone. My son is still saying, I want to mow the lawn. Dad, let me mow the lawn. And I said, Dan, if you can get this lawnmower started, you can mow the lawn. So I watched him from the kitchen window. And by the way, this is back when the phone is connected to the wall. Right?
So I'm looking out the window and I'm watching Dan, and he's tugging away, 10-year-old little boy, he's tugging away at this lawnmower, sweat's pouring down his face. And then he stopped. And he looked up and he put his hands together, and I could read his lips, and he said, "Dear God, please help me start this lawnmower." He reached down and he grabbed a hold of that rope and he pulled on it, and that lawnmower started. So I said to myself, you know what, if God wants him to mow the lawn, he's going to mow the lawn. Right? But I wanted to share that story with you because stop and think about the faith and the hope that that little 10-year-old boy had back then. The faith and the hope that each one of your children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, I don't care who they are, but every one of the children that we have in our care have that same faith and that same hope. We can't let that flame die out.